I have seen a lot of momentum building around the importance of Black economic mobility or Black economic empowerment. Not a novel concept at all, but I think it's one, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years, just more of us are starting to understand how, as the economic needle moves for us, we see a ripple effect in other outcome areas, whether it's housing, whether it's health outcomes, et cetera, educational outcomes. And so there's just more consciousness building around that. And with BCIF, you're talking about an organization that is unapologetically focused on the Black community, particularly building up Black economic mobility through business ownership and scaling businesses. And I think that appeals to a lot of people who already have this awareness around the importance of Black economic mobility.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Welcome back. So before we dive into today's episode, I want to let you know that tomorrow, so if you're listening to this in real time, tomorrow is September 30th. It's actually also International Podcast Day. So I would love for you to support the Black to Business Podcast by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts and or sharing this episode or one of your past favorite episodes with a friend. And also, if you'd also be so kind to tag us on social media at Black to Business. And if you are listening to this podcast and you have your very own show, happy International Podcast Day to you. Now let's dive into what we're discussing on today's episode. So the reality continues to be that there aren't enough viable funding opportunities tailored to the needs of businesses in the Black community. This is why we need to launch and embrace community-friendly funding opportunities built by us and for us. And you know we're all about providing a solution to a recommendation over here. So our guest today is going to share with you the power of Black economic mobility and pooling together resources. Joining me for today's conversation is Robert Lewis, President and founding Board Chair of Black Cooperative Investment Fund, also known as BCIF. BCIF is a 501c3 community-based organization rooted in self-help economics that provides microloans to the Black community through pooled dollars and raises awareness about the importance of economic empowerment, equity, and wealth building for the Black community. During this episode, you're going to learn why it's important to focus on funding opportunities for Black businesses and how to secure zero interest loans and the benefits of pooling together resources. And also we're going to talk about the importance of Black individuals launching venture capital platforms to support Black businesses. And lastly, we're going to talk about the impact of Black-owned businesses on the overall economy. Now, let's dive in. Robert, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. Such a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on behalf of the BCIF community. It's an honor to be here representing the Black Cooperative Investment Fund and what we're doing here in Southern California.
Our pleasure, yes. And I'm so excited about today's conversation because we're going to be talking about the work that you are doing and also funding Black businesses and just the power of pooling together resources to make sure that our businesses and our community are a success. Mm-hmm. But before we dive in, I want you to start by sharing a little bit with my audience about who you are. I know we're going to dive into it further. What is it that you do in your business and kind of how did you get where you are today?
Yeah, so the Black Cooperative Investment Fund, or BCIF as we call it, it's a nonprofit community-based orgs that provides zero-interest microloans to Black-owned businesses in Southern California. We do that through the power of pooled dollars and raising awareness about the importance of economic empowerment, equity, and wealth building. BCIF was legally established in 2016, really launched in 2017. So we've been at it about 5 years now. It's been a a fascinating journey, one in which we found ourselves not only pushing the bandwagon, but building it. So building and pushing and
Yes.
waiting for others to jump on board with this movement. We're all about addressing the racial wealth gap.
I love it. And so, Robert, I want to first start by talking about, the importance of access to funding, especially for Black entrepreneurs and Black businesses. Why do you think it's important to focus on funding opportunities specifically for Black businesses and what that can do and how it could affect the community?
Well, I mean, the data is clear, and it has been for decades now, around the barriers to capital and the lack of access to capital experienced by the Black community, specifically the Black business community. We've seen reinforcement of that, of what we've learned from our BCIF applicants. So we know that access to capital, it's a prerequisite for closing the racial wealth gap, period. I mean, you can look at all the studies you want, whether it's, the raw data or anecdotal information. Our lived experience over decades in this country, it's very clear. Wealth begets wealth. Money money begets money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have access to capital, it's hard to build wealth, build assets, pass that wealth along to future generations. So we think it's pretty crystal clear why there's a need, and there is plenty of data that speaks to the rates in which Black businesses are declined, as it relates to access to capital. And so we're BCIF is a community friendly alternative in helping our community access to needed capital.
Love it. And in your experience, like you mentioned with BCIF, what are some of the disadvantages of not having the sufficient funding to keep a business afloat? So how it is impacting these business owners who don't have this fund?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you don't, $250,000 in annual revenues is generally considered the critical benchmark for businesses to hire employees. And so, a lot of our businesses, they falter, and businesses in general, they falter in the early stages, but that's more pronounced in the Black business community. So when you hit 250,000 in gross annual revenues, generally, give or take, that's a critical benchmark to hire employees where you can offer them family sustaining wages, not just jobs, not just minimum wage jobs, but family sustaining jobs. To help them build their marketing platforms, to help them bolster their technology. You need capital in order to be competitive, in the marketplace. So, jobs, marketing, technology, you name it. You need the capital to do that.
Certainly. And let's take a step back. So let's talk about what inspired you to become interested in improving the economic status of the Black community.
Great question, Monique. I'm glad you asked. My background is in philanthropy. So I've worked in grant making for many years now. I was having a conversation about 10 years ago with a colleague talking about the many ways in which Black-led nonprofit organizations are marginalized from mainstream philanthropy. My colleague and I were very aware of the reasons for that. But at some point during the conversation, I say, hey, it seems to me we could just pool our dollars and fund the things that are relevant to us rather than coming to institutions that aren't as invested in our community and getting the door slammed in our faces over and over. And I remember the response was not rude, but it was dismissive, as if to say, oh, you won't do that. And so that really was the catalyst for a set of conversations that took place over about 4 years, where we talked to several different people, about 50 in total. Some worked in philanthropy. Others were just kind of average Joes and Susies, who are part of the Black community or concerned about the Black community. Otherwise, we talked about what might this pooled fund thing, quote unquote, thing look like. And through those conversations, economic mobility, it rose to the top. And we started hearing conversations around the desire to help Black businesses create jobs, and just kind of keep it in the fam, so to speak, recycling Black dollars, et cetera, particularly around Black-owned businesses. And so that's how BCIF was born, essentially. The name of the organization was born from those conversations, the focus on microloans, which are really helpful for like in the early stages of scaling businesses. It all came about from these conversations. So the people, we took our directives straight from the community, and this is what the result was, BCIF.
Love it. And so in your journey of providing these microloans for these Black businesses, has the size of the business been a determining factor in how much you give these businesses?
Well, one of the beautiful things about BCIF is the board, very passionate group of people, very experienced, skilled group of people. We have criteria for what we look at in possible loan opportunities, but we're very flexible with that. So what you'll hear and read is that 500,000 in annual gross revenues is the threshold. We look for businesses that are under $500,000 a year. We have the autonomy to go above that if it's something that is particularly intriguing. One of our loans has been for a company that at the time was generating about $750K a year, but it was a business that was very focused on providing livable wage jobs to people who had been formerly incarcerated, part of the justice system. And that was something that was very intriguing to the board. And when I say the board, Monique, the board represents the community. It represents our donors. It represents other key stakeholders. So we're the eyes and ears of the community. So in terms of gross revenues, it's 500,000, but it's flexible depending on the business model. I can tell you that most of the applicants we've had to date, they're not even close to 500,000. About half of them are startups. The other half, they're certainly under that 250K annual gross revenue threshold. So I think just by default, smaller businesses have kind of rose to the top. That's what we're seeing more of in our applicants.
Yeah. And I do want to ask about this process, going more into depth into your process. So if a business is interested in taking advantage of the resources that BCIF has, what does that process look like from beginning to end?
Yeah, so it's really a 4-phase process. There's a preliminary loan request. It takes all of about 5-10 minutes to complete online. From there, it gives us some preliminary information that we vet to assess whether there's a fit with BCIF's mission. If we move it on, it goes to the second phase where you complete a full loan application package. And it has a lot of documents that we've come to know of when you're applying for a loan, your projected P&Ls, your track record of P&Ls, your business plan or business summary, documents like that. But one of the unique aspects of what we do is we're a character-based lender, not a credit-based lender. So in order to be able to get to know you beyond just what's in a document, we do a one-on-one interview. It's typically about 90 minutes where we just get the chance to know you as a business owner, your vision, your history, your investment in Black economic mobility. So that's a critical part of what we do. If it moves beyond that, it goes to the third phase to our loan and credit committee. It's a couple of board members and a couple of donors, or what we call members, participate in that. And that's a really critical phase because it's really the eyes and ears of the community signing off on this particular loan request. It goes from there to the fourth and final phase, our board of directors, where we review and hopefully approve. So there are many eyes and ears. And there's an underwriting process that comes in there as well. Underwriting works in partnership with the loan and credit committee. but many eyes and ears. There is no one or two people that kind of sit up in a tower and, gives a rubber stamp approval to these requests. We really try to be as transparent as possible.
I love it. And now are these loans because I know I researched and I saw that there are zero interest options. Would these be considered the zero interest loan that you all offer?
Yeah, all of our loans are zero interest, Monique. And when we started, the interest rate was 12 to 13%, which was still lower than your alternative lenders in most cases. A couple of years down the line, we decreased the interest rate to 6 to 7%. And all the loans are paid back over 2 to 3 years, depending on whatever we agree to with that particular borrower. But we've had one board member who all along has been really advocating for zero interest, and others on the board were pushing back on that over the years. But last year we looked at how much revenues have been generated through interest on repayments, and it was less than 1%. Monique, it was literally a drop in the bucket. So at that point we go, well, what's the value in this? Yeah, we can do zero interest because it doesn't really impact the bottom line anyway. And so not only that, we thought zero interest would be a great way to bring more visibility to BCIF and put it out there as a viable, community-friendly capital option for the Black business community. So zero interest piece we implemented that in July of last year. There's also a 25% forgivable option. So if you achieve certain benchmarks, timely payments, growing your gross revenues, etc., you can get up to 25% of your loan forgiven. And we challenge anybody in the country to find another capital option that will be zero interest with a 25% forgivable option, specifically for Black businesses. Mm-hmm. If they're out there, we would love to know of them because we would love to actually partner. We don't see BCIF as something that is here in SoCal and only meant to be here in SoCal. We would love to see this model replicated in other parts of the country. And maybe there are some out there that exist already. If you're out there, we'd love to know about you and partner with you, be thought partners, strategic partners. But yeah, we want to see this model replicated all over the country. It's part of our long-term vision.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you gave that backstory because it's like this is one of the options of funding is the way that you all are doing and pooling together resources. So let's dive deeper into, the benefits of, or just behind the scenes of pooling together resources, especially as a community. I love what you all are doing. So let's start by talking about the benefits of pooling together resources and what are the cons, if there are any, in your experience?
Well, when we started BCIF in 2016-17, we started with the idea that those of us that are impacted by the issues that affect the Black community, those of us who care about the issues that affect the Black community, we should have skin in the game because history shows us that sitting around waiting for other folks to save us, the cavalry as it's been called to come and save us. It's not coming. It's not coming. Right. So we have to have skin in the game. And so BCIF's annual goal to this day has been $500,000 in annual revenue. With that, we can deploy 24 to 36 microloans, ranging from 5 to 20,000. Having said that, the top of 2020, Monique, we realized that we didn't want to have an exclusionary fundraising approach. And we realized there are certain institutions out there that are allies and accomplices as it relates to issues affecting the Black community and wanting to move the needle forward. So we decided to invite foundations and corporations into the fold. And so 2020 and 2021, we started receiving grants in a way that we had not pursued prior to that. But we don't want to get to the point where the grants outweigh individual donations because BCIF, the board feels very strongly about adhering to the mission. We don't want to compromise. We don't want it watered down. And the best way for us to stay true to the mission is to have those of us who are affected by the issues have skin in the game and become donors. So to answer your question about the cons piece, right now, BCIF, we've had one full-time staffer. And we phased out that position a few months ago, and we're looking to hire another full-time staffer with a different scope of duties. But for the most part, since its inception, BCIF has been run by a volunteer group of board members. And so when you talk about when you talk about being run by a group of volunteers, you have to be mindful of your own bandwidth. And so it's a lot more time efficient to get one $25,000 grant from XYZ Foundation versus $1,000 from 25 individuals. And that's been our ask to date, $1,000 commitment, whether it's at one time or on a monthly basis. And so that's one of the cons is, just being, it's labor intensive, but it's certainly worthwhile. And if you look at just Southern California, our belief is like, hey, $500,000 a year, that's 500 people putting $1,000, into the pot. If we can't find 500 people who care enough about what's going on with the Black community to put skin in the game, then that's a bigger conversation. That's another issue altogether. So, yeah. So, but I'd say it's labor intensive given our capacity, our bandwidth. But we have moved forward, and momentum has been building year by year. So we're proud of that.
Yeah. And, one of the things you mentioned is that you all have looked to have other partners, strategic partners who are outside of the community, be a part of donating to the organization. Now, I want to talk about the fact that because you all are so niche focused, the competitive advantage that it gives you. I want to talk about that piece of it and what are some of the things that you've seen as far as that competitive advantage it gives you, but also with those people who are donating, like how that impacts their ability to, their personal beliefs in terms of being able to give and how they feel good about giving, like sharing that part of it.
Well, I have seen a lot of momentum building around the importance of Black economic mobility or Black economic empowerment. Not a novel concept at all, but I think it's one, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years, just more of us are starting to understand how, as the economic needle moves for us, we see a ripple effect in other outcome areas, whether it's housing, whether it's health outcomes, et cetera, educational outcomes. So there's just more consciousness building around that. And with BCIF, you're talking about an organization that is unapologetically focused on the Black community, particularly building up Black economic mobility through business ownership and scaling businesses. And I think that appeals to a lot of people who already have this awareness around the importance of Black economic mobility. And so as a result, we have several donors who aren't based in the Southern California area. We have people all over the country, from Michigan to New York to Georgia, et cetera. And they give for different reasons. Some of them have roots here in Southern California. Others are just intrigued by this business model that they think should be replicated all over the country. And they want to have skin in the game because they feel that passionate about the need to build our economic muscle, so to speak. So people have, it's various motivational levels for getting involved in BCIF, but I'd say the competitive advantage is the unapologetic focus on the Black business community, zero interest, the forgivable option. People see that there is no other option like this for Black businesses. There is no other community-friendly, capital-friendly option, and that certainly resonates with many people that are already in this space and thinking about what can they do to be a part of it. Being more intentional about how they spend their dollars. BCIF has been attractive in that way.
Yeah, I love it. And speaking of, I want to talk about the donors process, so giving. So what does that look like? Because one of the things you mentioned is like if someone were to replicate what you all are doing. I know that you all are in SoCal, so this is great for someone who's thinking this is something that I would love to do as well. So talk about the process as a donor. Like, what does that look like as a giver?
Yeah, so it's we try to make it a pretty seamless process. You
Mm-hmm.
go online, there is a button you can click on to give now or donate now, and it takes you to our online giving portal. The ask is, like I said, a minimum of 1,000 a year, but we're often asked, well, if I don't have that capacity, can I give any amount? And the answer is obviously yes. So people go on and they become either recurring donors or one-time donors through our online giving portal. We have another segment of donors. They attend events and our in-person events, like many others. They took a hit,
Mm-hmm.
with the COVID pandemic. We just had our first in-person event August 21st, the first one since the pandemic. We're looking forward to having our next in-person event in October. But in-person events have been a great way to get people involved as donors as well. When you get our people together and you get that energy, and
Yep.
galvanize in one room, it's almost like being in church. When that collection plate goes around, and everybody's riled up from what the pastor just said, feeling inspired. They just put some on. And so we've experienced that dynamic when we've hosted events as well. And so, yeah, it's pretty seamless though to get involved with BCIF. And for folks who have questions about the business model and how exactly their gifts are allocated, what it
Mm-hmm.
goes towards, they're always free to send an email to us or give us a call. We're happy to answer the questions.
Love it. And also, speaking of giving, I want to talk about your opinion on like having rich Black people, wealthy Black individuals, launching venture capital funds or just making it a priority to give back and support Black startups. Do you think that that's a necessity or they have that obligation to do so?
Yeah, we think we need all hands on deck. So venture capital is not the BCIF lane, but it's certainly one that we are completely supportive of. Whether it's venture capitalists, whether it's crowdfunding slash pooled funds slash cooperative economic models like a BCIF or other models, any effort that is focused on the mission of improving the economic lot of the Black community is one that we are supportive of. So we love what we're seeing the emergence of Black VCs. We think it's a great thing.
Mhm. And with that, with your platform and your business, providing these microloans, as that is one of the funding options, and there are, like you mentioned, several others. What do you think are the advantages of seeking this funding lane versus others?
Yeah, we often hear from our applicants. We hear from other lenders out there, whether it's community development financial institutions or CDFIs, as they're called, or angel investors, venture capitalists, you name it. We hear that BCIF is our main value is in helping our Black business owners become more quote unquote loan ready for other sources of capital. Our funding is particularly helpful in the early stages of developing businesses, whether it's startup mode or they're still emerging. A lot of our applicants don't necessarily qualify for those other sources of capital because maybe there are lenders that don't do less than say 50,000 or 25,000, or there are lenders where credit score does come into play. There are an assortment of reasons why our Black business owners may not be able to access capital at any given time. BCIF is about the most Black community friendly lender you will find. Now, it doesn't mean you qualify and you're approved for a loan because you're Black and you have a business or a business idea. There is a bar. It's a more community-friendly bar than other lenders, but there is a bar. And so just helping our lenders get that early stage capital they need. Most of our applicants, they have 9-to-5s in their businesses. They're trying to grow them while they're still on the 9-to-5 grind. And, in some cases, it may help them be able to take a couple of months off from the 9-to-5 and really drill down, hone in on developing their businesses, because they have the capital needed to do that. It's and we've seen an instance where that occurred. Being able to successfully pay off a BCIF loan or stay on track with their repayments, it helps them build up a profile or portfolio that they can then share with other lenders. There are a wide range of reasons in why BCIF is helpful and gets our business owners ready for the next step or steps. So we've seen that. We've seen it and we hear it.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that is getting them ready, because that's a different perspective than what we're used to hearing, because especially in our community, sometimes it's taught that, loans are bad, but it's like some people need that head start. And speaking on that, it's like this gives you that head start to where, like you said, they get something else, they could pay it back, and it allows them to do that. So
yeah, and we, to that point, Monique, when it came to the zero interest piece, when we decided to implement that, the board, which again represents the community, we have never been interested in having BCIF perceived as something that is a burden because it's just more debt or it's debt heavy, whatever the case might be. So to kind of eliminate the, kind of the boogeyman in the room, so to speak, around debt, we thought, well, the best way we can actually do that and to demonstrate that BCIF is a community-friendly option is to eliminate the interest altogether. And not only that, to give them some perks in the form of a forgivable option if they are successful, And so, we are big on that. And we are, we're hopeful that there are eyes and ears on BCIF across the country. Others will explore replicating, and we'll partner with folks to, whether it is BCIF Jackson, Mississippi, BCIF Detroit, Michigan, or it's another entity altogether. We would love to partner and play a role in replicating other community-friendly models like BCIF.
I love it. And so this has been amazing. So what are some of the things that you're looking forward to happening down the line with BCIF? Some of the things that you all have coming up, just to share.
Yeah, we are certainly excited about, we have a pool of dollars to deploy. One of our board members, when he describes BCIF, he simplifies it and says, hey, what we basically do is raise money, we pool dollars and deploy it. Deploy funds. That's what we do. We raise dollars, pool them, and deploy them. So we have a pool of dollars we've been fortunate enough to secure over the last couple of years, and we're looking forward to getting more of these dollars out the door to really increasing the number of loans and seeing the various success stories that come out of that. So I'd say that's what's on the immediate horizon. In the long term, we'd love to become a multi-million-dollar organization, one that has involvement in replicating this in other parts of the country, demonstrating, being a lab, so to speak, to demonstrate the importance and the value in investing unapologetically in Black-owned businesses, and just being a part of the overall ecosystem of efforts to address the racial wealth gap. So that's we're looking forward to being a part of all of that.
I love it. And for you, Robert, you are doing, the leader and the visionary. As the leader and the visionary, you're doing amazing things, and so grateful for what you're doing in the community. And I know it's not easy. And I want to ask you, being in this process and being in business, like so far, like what has been that best risk that you've taken?
Wow. Well, there's one story that comes to mind, and because it's a recent one, I'd say. We invested in a company that provides hygiene education in under-resourced communities, but also provides hygiene products to in under-resourced communities, in hygiene products that you and I may take for granted, where others may not necessarily have the resources, to buy, kind of basic, you're talking about deodorant, you're talking about toothpaste, and so on and so forth. But this particular business was able, through a BCIF loan, was able to build its e-commerce platform to where it has now broadened its visibility beyond just Southern California. It's able to generate more revenues because of that, and now able to offer lower cost products and services in certain under-resourced communities here locally. So it's a benefit to the community. You're able to still get the products at lower cost while this business is growing and scaling up, increasing its gross revenues because it now has a larger consumer base through its e-commerce platform that was developed as a direct result of the funding it got from BCIF. So,
oh, wow.
So we're excited to see where that business goes.
So awesome. I love it. And Robert, if someone was in business for their first year, what advice would you give them?
Nothing comes from nothing. Meaning if you don't try, the only outcome that you guarantee is that you won't be successful. So if you find that you're no worse off when you try and stumble and maybe fail, it's worth the shot. I think the great hockey player Wayne Gretzky said, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." So this is very much aligned with the spirit of that, that quote. So I say just go for it. If you're in a position where you won't be worse off, and you'll never know. You'll never know what how successful you could be if you have the vision and the will, but don't necessarily have the capacity. Organizations like BCIF and many others out there can offer you the coaching, the business advisory services, and technical assistance you need to ramp up your game, so to speak. Actively seek out those resources. I mean, I found microlending isn't my background. It's grant making, it's philanthropy, it's nonprofit management. I've learned a lot along the way, and I found that many folks in this space, Black business owners, they're still learning. I mean, when you're talking about 95+% of Black business owners are sole proprietorships, Monique, a lot of people are going at it alone. So, a lot of people are learning on the fly, and hey, that's okay. Again, you won't be successful if you don't try, if you quit. So that would be my main advice: to stay the course, and be intentional about aligning yourself with other like-minded folks.
Yes, I love it. And finally, Robert, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
To be Black in business, it means to assert the power that lies within all of us, the untapped greatness that resides in all of us, and activating that. I am one who firmly believes in the power of the dollar to impact our lot here in America and globally. So I think the more we are activating our Blackness in the business space, I think we are better positioned to see more positive outcomes for us overall. So I think, being Black in business means power.
Love it.
And Monique, if I can, before we go here, just want to highlight a few things that I'd love to leave people with. When you think of BCIF, think of, as far as we know, the only microlending nonprofit offering zero interest loans with a forgivable option unapologetically to the Black community in SoCal. That's the first thing. Secondly, if that resonates with you, if you believe that moving the needle economically is the primary platform for us to impact other issue areas affecting the Black community, consider getting involved with BCIF as a donor. The ask is $1,000 a year. But any amount that is within your capacity is something we welcome, and you don't have to be SoCal based to do that, as evidenced by a large percentage of our donors that do not reside in LA. So consider putting some skin in the game. Thirdly, if you are working in this space in other parts of the country, and a model such as BCIF's is intriguing to you, and is something you want to consider building or replicating in your particular region, reach out to us. We'd love to be a thought partner, a strategic partner with you. I'd say lastly, if you are a Black business owner here in SoCal, or if you know of one in SoCal, by Southern California specifically, we target Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. So if you're in that area, if you know someone in that area, Black business owner, certainly we encourage you to explore BCIF as a resource, as a capital option for you. If you feel like a loan of $5,000 to $20,000 could really boost or kickstart your business, apply. We encourage you. Yes, I want to leave people with those four things.
And they're certainly going to want to know, how can they find you and connect with you? So please share any emails, social media.
Absolutely. Our website is B as in boy, C as in cat, I as in Ivan, F as in Frank, U, N as in Nancy, D as in David.org. So bcifund.org. You can find us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at BCI Fund, for all three of those. Our email address is info, I-N-F-O, info@bcifund.org. For those of us that still pick up the phone and call folk up from time to time, you can reach us at 310-904-6336.
Love it. Robert, this has been such a pleasure. And again, thank you for everything that you're doing and just pouring into our audience today as well, and wishing you nothing but the best. And again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Monique. Appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. We are a fan, fully supportive of you. And just thanks to everyone out there for taking time to listen up and reach out to BCIF. We welcome it.
So good. I love that Robert touched on the fact that microloans give business owners a head start for the next level. And these are zero interest loans that they are giving out. So I love that. And of course, the fact that it takes the community pooling together resources, and just hearing the impact that it was able to make for the businesses that BCIF has been able to lend funds to thus far. I love what they're doing. Also, a special reminder that our guest last week, Dr. Avis Jones D. Weaver, shared that she's hosting her event, Black Millionaire Coach Live, on October 14th through 16th in Washington, D.C. So you can check out more information about her event at blackmillionairecoachlive.com. And she's also offering our audience a special discount code, Black to Business. This has been great, and thank you for supporting us as we support you, and I will chat with you next week.